Hey everybody, my name is Kyle Patterson. I'm the Director of Business Development and Culture with Bryson Insurance, and with me is Leslie, who I will introduce a little bit more in just a few minutes. Thank you so much for taking time out of your morning to be with us on this webinar, How to Stand Out on LinkedIn. And when we first started putting on webinars of this type of nature, people started asking us, why is an insurance company doing this? And the image that you can see here is our mission, or our mission statement is like what caring insurance brokers do and then some. So we totally care about your success and helping you achieve whatever it is that you are looking to achieve. And we know that LinkedIn is one of those tools that are being totally underutilized by people. So we want to also bring value beyond just your insurance needs. And we love to learn ourselves and share. And it's great when we can introduce you to total rock stars. So just a couple quick stats here. So first, 1 out of 3 professionals on the entire planet are on LinkedIn. And 2 new users join LinkedIn every second. The average CEO has 930 connections. And that will come up later on how you could actually get to the people that you want to speak to. And almost 40% of users pay for special features, which I know is a question that I'm going to have for Leslie if she doesn't cover it herself, is those paid features. And on the other side here of the slide, that LinkedIn by a long shot generates most B2B leads. So if you're a business to business company, then LinkedIn is really a place where you want to spend time. And up to today, you may not be spending that much time because you don't actually know how to get great effectiveness out of the time that you're spending there. And so this is the opportunity for this. And I want to create a platform that asks questions as we go. Leslie will be speaking and then I'll see the questions, and just please ask away and we'll make sure to answer as many questions as we can, and any other ones that we can't inside of our time, we will follow up afterward. So who is Leslie Hughes? This lovely person over here. So she is a LinkedIn specialist. I've seen her speak numerous times, and I'm always writing and taking away notes. And so it made so much sense for us to invite you here today. So Leslie's a social selling consultant and a social media guru by CBC Radio. And she is one of only 100 people so far who are chartered marketers certified in Canada, which is a pretty exclusive designation as it exists today. There's so much more. She's been on the social, she's been on CBC Radio. She's worked with companies like TVO, the Children's Wish Foundation, Investment Planning Council, Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, and really helps companies and individuals get who they are out into the LinkedIn environment. So at this time, because there's so much content, I'm going to hand it right over to Leslie.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, and sorry, because I see the agenda. Yeah. She's also a published author. So this is the book, and I really want to hold that up because you'll see the agenda today. You're getting like a sneak preview of all what's in this book. Okay, now.
Yeah, okay, here we go. So I do like to boil down sort of my strategy for creating an online presence, and I guess my goal really is to empower professionals to really be their best selves online. And that's really important because a lot of people really, really hold themselves back from standing in their value, standing in their story, really.
Sure.
So it really boils down to a 3-part process, which is to create a strong first impression. So that helps with inbound leads when people are searching out, who are you, what do you do, how can you help them? The second step is the etiquette, which is the connect. How do you use LinkedIn to connect with people? And also, depending upon your profession, if you're in sales, it's a really great way to find money in motion. It's a really great way to see when people have changed jobs and so forth. So that's where the social selling aspect comes in. And then the last is we're all brands. And so to build thought leadership using channels such as LinkedIn is a really great way for you to sort of extend your word of mouth, to develop thought leadership and really hone in on your expertise and really build a tribe of followers that really want to hear. They're raising their hand to find out what you do and whether you can help them. So that's the 3-step process. And we're going to go through some of those in a very, very short period of time. I can talk about LinkedIn for hours.
Yes.
We're really laser focusing on some of the 3 key steps here today. So LinkedIn works kind of like the 6 degrees of separation. I don't know if you've heard about that, but between you and anyone else in the entire world, there's only 6 degrees that connect you to anybody. And so LinkedIn is a 3 degrees process, which is there's you, then there's your first degree connections, which is kind of like, some people don't remember. You might be too young to remember what a Rolodex is. I don't know.
We still have them.
You still have them? Well, some people, I think my students at the college will look at me and go, Rolodex, what's a Rolodex?
Yes.
So it's your online connection, your database of connections. That's your first degree connections. And then everybody that you're connected to in your first degree are then connected to their connections, which are your second degree connections. So just to really boil it down quickly, if there's like a dream client that I want to work with, and let's say you were already connected to them, I could say, hey, Kyle, could you do me a favor and introduce me to that perfect connection? And then it's not like me going and pitching that person and them saying, what do you want from me? It's really that warm introduction. So that's sort of how LinkedIn really is boiled down to in those degrees of separation. So
right. And then just inside that too, and these might be things that you'll cover later, in that space, do you say, hey, Tom, can you connect me through an email with this person? So you take it off LinkedIn to create that connection?
Absolutely. Okay. And then get face to face. I mean, we use these tools, but the goal is to get them on the phone to develop and deepen relationships. It's not about just building a database of miscellaneous people that you really don't care about. Mm-hmm. It's about deepening those relationships. I'm a really big champion of quality over quantity, and we'll get into that in a bit.
Yeah. Great.
So just more, statistics, but the value of LinkedIn, it's not the widest reaching out of all the channels. In fact, it's kind of a boring network. I know nobody's really all that excited, except maybe me, to get onto LinkedIn first thing in the morning, because I just see the huge potential of it. Obviously you do, otherwise you wouldn't have me here. Mm-hmm. But it is, 546 million members in over 200 countries. Now comparing that to Facebook's 2 billion people in the world on Facebook. Right. Even Instagram now has 800 million people on Instagram. So it's not the widest reaching one, but the psychology of LinkedIn is far different than those other channels, where on LinkedIn, you're actually connecting with professionals. Mm-hmm. So the psychology of this channel is it's the business network. This is the largest professional network. And so decision makers are actually investing time here. They're not just sitting and passively wasting time. They're on there for a specific purpose. And so as a result, there's more people have more buying power than ever on this particular channel. So that's why it's important. So you don't want to share the same kind of thing that you would on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat on LinkedIn. You have to keep it professional.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So step one, creating a strong first impression. And if I say if you do nothing else, there's 3 specific areas you need to focus on. And I know that they are not, it takes time to build up this first impression. So let's go to the next slide, because the 3 key areas that I say you need to complete, and if you complete these 3 areas, you will be better than 80 to 90% of people on LinkedIn. And the 3 key areas are your photo, your headline, and your summary. Now the photo should be simple enough to do, but we're going to look at some do not do's.
Okay.
So go ahead on to the next slide.
It just real quick.
Oh, we don't have this do not do's on here.
Yeah. One of the slides that somehow just missed the edit here was a quote from Jeff Bezos that I just wanted to say, because I think it's really important mindset is personal brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. Yeah. And so really that's just a great way to consider that.
Well, it's important to get on the same side of the table as your target audience, because you already know what you do. I mean, we even sometimes when we are telling people what do we do, we're not necessarily focusing on what's in it for them. And so that's really important. That in fact, it's one of the during college where I teach, it's the very first assignment that I assign my students is, would you hire you based on your digital footprint? So Google your name, find out how other people are perceiving you, and how is your presence professional? And if you need to clean up your social channels, right? If you're acting like a ding dong on like Facebook or things like that, do you need to lock down your sites and things like? I mean, look at Roseanne recently, right?
Yeah, one quick moment of time, and it changes their whole life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so people don't necessarily think when they're posting online that this screen grabs can be captured, and what goes on the internet stays on the internet. So for me, it's always like, never publish anything you wouldn't want to see on a billboard, and that we're all brands even in our non-working hours. So that's another sort of point to make about that is, again, think about how other people perceive you.
Okay, and there's a question, and you might come to it later, but the other thing too, just if you don't know how to do this, you can go on Google and just search for how to look at your profile from an outsider user's view versus how you're looked at it logged in, because it looks different when you're logged into your account. So if you don't know how to do that, look for that. And the reason I'm going to ask this now, and you can come to it later though, is in your profile, you can also sort of have your top articles that you want people to see.
Right.
And so I think this question's about sharing content in
Yeah.
general,
Mm-hmm.
but in your profile, is it better to have content that you've written that you are
Mm-hmm.
already, like, that you have there, not a third-party content that you're highlighting?
You can have both.
Okay.
You can have both. We'll get to that. That's
Okay.
step 3. So
Great.
we'll hopefully
Yes.
get it to, I don't have time to get
Yeah.
to that.
Okay. Well,
So.
keep hustling. I know I can go off track here. Okay.
That's okay. Well, so usually in my slide deck, I didn't send this one to you because we only have a certain amount of time, but I have a laundry list of do not do's. I have people on there, pictures of babies, pictures of cats, pictures of people up at the cottage, people drinking, people who's like, oh, ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend sort of cropped out of because they look really cute in that picture, and they're like, oh, just crop that person out of it. Don't do that.
Okay.
There's even the worst one I have is people with no clothes on. Like there are men with no shirts on, ladies in bikinis, and like really, this is the professional network.
Right.
We really need to step up our game here. This isn't, Snapchat. We're not sending nudies to other people, right?
Clear.
Yeah.
Clear. Okay.
It is a professional network, so really make sure that it's like a professional headshot. Even if you can't afford a professional photographer, which I believe, because they can get rid of all the things that you don't want to see in there. But even if you can't afford a professional headshot, just stand against a plain background and just be dressed appropriately, just with like whatever you would wear to a business meeting. If you're, my students will be like, oh, but what happens if you're a bodybuilder? I'm like, would you show up all, lubed up in a, in a Speedo to your business meeting? No, that's not the way you would show up. So however you would present yourself in a business meeting is exactly how you should be presenting yourself on the world's largest business network.
Awesome.
Yeah. The second step is to create a really good, strong headline. So for me, principal punch media or CEO punch media doesn't mean anything to anyone. And so how can you construct your story within 120 characters? And typically I have a pretty good formula to help, it's either, for your title and the business, specializing in helping my target audience, whatever that target audience is, with these results. Or so just trying to frame up exactly who you are, what you do, how you help someone in 120 characters isn't always easy. There's a quote by a 16th century philosopher and mathematician by the name of Blaise Pascal, who said, if I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter. So synthesizing these things down can be really challenging. So my advice is write everything in a Word document first. That's what I do when I'm writing my LinkedIn profiles for the people that I write profiles for, and do it in a Word document because there is no draft version on LinkedIn. So sort of try and play around with the 120 characters. The good news is, is that this is a living document. Being on LinkedIn is a living, you can change it on a moment's notice, just as long as you make sure that everything is done grammatically correct, because that's the biggest no-no, is having poor grammar online. So
I just wrote down, check my own headline.
Check your own headline. And so just see how you can sort of frame up what your story is in 120 characters. And so the one that I've got there is an example of somebody who is a freelance writer that I know by the name of Sue Horner, and she says, I help corporate communicators who need writing that has warmth and personality, which is a much better way of sort of framing up what she does as opposed to just freelance writer.
Right.
When she says, I help corporate communicators who need writing that has warmth and personality, it tells a little bit more of a story.
Sure, and it's like talking into her target market, and if that target market's reading that, they're like, oh, okay, this person could be a fit for us.
Right, absolutely, yeah. Now the heavy lifting, the hardest part, is going to be writing your summary. And it takes me, when I write the profiles for executives, it takes me anywhere between 8 to 10 hours to write them. Because part of it is sort of synthesizing exactly who is this person, what is their story. Have you seen the Simon Sinek Start With Why?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's a game changer.
Yes,
if you haven't seen it, S-I-N-E-K, Simon Sinek's, I watched it a million times and I swear I get something new from it every single time. And he says over and over again, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so typically that's how I start the storytelling part when I create someone's profile is, well, why did you get in this industry in the first place? Because people are curious about that, and people want to work with someone who's committed, who's passionate about what they do. Sure. So start with that. Again, get on the same side of the table as your target audience to really create a story that resonates with them. So what's in it for them? And not just the benefits or anything like that, but really what are they getting? I always ask the question, people always say to me, well, what's the ROI of social media? And my question is, what's the ROI of you? What are the intrinsic and the extrinsic values that you're bringing to the table that makes you different than everybody else?
Right.
Now, this takes time. So synthesizing this down is a bit tough. So my advice is, again, write it in a Word document. Think about the white space. Make sure that it's skimmable and readable. You have 2,000 characters to tell that story. I suggest writing it in first person. And the reason for that is because the reader will look at it from a first person perspective and feel like they're having a conversation with you. If you write it in third person and say like, Kyle is the greatest guy ever, people are like, Okay, so if you say I really love what I'm doing, I'm really passionate about delivering results, I'm really committed and honored, and those kinds of words really it resonates with the reader much more than simply like a third party bio.
Absolutely. And
And
I read them, but like we read, I know because I read them. I read them before I start a new relationship. And so because I sometimes think 2,000 characters, that's long.
yeah.
But I've read a lot of people's profiles over the time for a variety of reasons. And they're a great quick snapshot of who somebody is
Yeah.
before you meet them.
Yeah. And I think that people, this is where and I don't want to go on this too long because we only have a short period of time together. But the one thing that I've realized in the past few years as I've been writing these LinkedIn profiles is I thought first it was a Canadian thing and I thought it was a female thing and I realized it's an everybody thing. People are really afraid to stand in their accomplishments. They're like, oh, I don't want to put that I am, I was on the social because people are going to think I'm bragging. I don't want to say that someone said I was amazing at this because they're going to think I'm bragging, or if I won awards or those kinds of things. And I think it's something that I struggle with all the time. I continuously struggle with it, realizing also that I'm a marketer and I have to market myself. So we all have to market ourselves as brands and we have to stand in our accomplishments. We have to say, these are the things that I've done. And the reason why I really strongly encourage people to stand in that is because why would you want to work with a person who's like, I'm sort of okay at what I do?
Sure.
You want to work with a guy who's like, not that I'm awesome, because you don't want to be that guy either, but you want to be the person who's like, I am so passionate about helping my target audience. I'm so committed to making sure that they get the results that they want. I want to be of service. And so when you sort of frame up your story that way, who doesn't want to work with a person who's accomplished and amazing at what they do, who loves showing up every day, giving their full self? And so that's part of how you have to frame up that story of these are the accomplishments that I've had, because nobody wants to work with a hack. You don't want to work with a guy who's like, oh, this is my first rodeo. This is the first time I showed up and did this, right? You want to work with somebody who's had some expertise. And if you've won awards, put that on there. Put the, I'm really honored to have been recognized by my peers and by my clients for receiving this kind of award. Then it doesn't sound like bragging at all. It sounds like you're really good at what you do.
And so there is a webinar. So there's a webinar we've done with Rory Sheehan, who's a mindset individual. So that was creating a success mindset. And I totally get that people have a lot of stuff in their way around sharing themselves. And so if you're somebody who's like that, email me and I'll make sure you get a copy of that webinar as well, because that's extremely useful to making this an easier thing to do and coming from the right place. And so because I don't know if the answer is here in your LinkedIn summary or where it is, but past work that people have done for clients, where to show that?
Well, you can do that in your summary. So your summary is a holistic view. You're the hero of the story in your summary. So you could say, like I do, these are the clients I've worked with. If they're great brands and you can showcase that on there and the clients are fine with it. I mean, I've had a few non-disclosure agreements that my clients are like, which is tough because I'm like, oh, they're such great clients. I really want to showcase that on there. And so you could say some of my clients include, there is a project section. So if you want to get into the nitty gritty, you could go down to the project section and showcase that in there. And so it is like, it's your entire sort of, like your summary doesn't necessarily mean exactly what you're doing now. It could be a hybrid of, I do this in my daytime hours and I do this in my non-working hours. Like it could include, it depends on your story and what you want to showcase. But if you are like, because I know that you're pretty active in the community and things like that, you could say in my non-working hours, this is what I like to do. Again, it's part of your story. So it doesn't have to just be a resume. It can actually showcase the things that you do in your non-working hours as well.
Which I think comes into George's question here too, which is this looks like a resume, the sample you have here with the bullet points and whatnot. So what's the sort of ideal split, or what's your recommendation around that?
Well, it is the storytelling. So I even write mine a little different than I do with my clients. Mine is more based on some of the people that I've worked with. Again, you want to make it skimmable and you want to make sure that it isn't really just a resume. A resume is just bullet points. I want to make sure that it's skimmable, that people can get what they want out of it so that it's easy to read. At the same time, I don't want it to read as a resume because I want to have a little bit more personality infused with it. So that's what I call it. Like LinkedIn is your resume with personality is what I like to call it. So they should be similar, but they don't have to be identical insofar as the bullet points and how boring. Like the LinkedIn, I mean, your resume is really cold. It doesn't really showcase your personality. Or you can get into it a bit more.
And companies actually are looking for those resumes that actually do highlight personality more too, right? And so it's a great sort of middle place here.
Yeah, and we have to think of the keywords.
Yeah.
So the keywords that we use might be different than the keywords that our target audience uses. So the other recommendation that I typically, I will even do in my research is to go onto like Indeed and or LinkedIn and find out what are the keywords, what are the things that, okay, say you're in business development, well, business development and sales and like those words are sort of interchangeable a lot. So how, when someone posts a job for that online, what are those specific keywords that a company will use, and then mirror that back in the story as well.
If you're looking for, like, if you're looking on that recruitment side, but as I said earlier too, like I read these before I like go to have a lunch with somebody.
Yeah. Well, it's great. It's, I mean, it's great icebreakers.
Yeah.
And then the last thing,
I'm like, holy, we got so much content here.
The last thing that's so important, it's always missed. Almost every single person forgets to include, how do you want someone to take the next step? How do you want someone to get in touch with you? So include your email address and or your phone number, particularly if you want people to reach out to you, because it's not necessarily all that intuitive on how you want someone to take that next step.
Yeah, that's great, actually.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
cool.
Okay, now the current experience is sort of the bonus. So the first picture, headline, summary, you do that, you're golden. Even people at LinkedIn have not completed those 3 steps, including the president himself, just between you and me.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, the CEO, yeah. And so your current experience, so if you are the hero of the story in your summary, then the company's kind of the hero of the story in the current experience. And this is where you get into the what that you did.
Sure.
If the summary is the why, then you get into, okay, so I am the principal of Punch Media. Punch Media does this. Punch Media helps, and these are the things that I do. And then you can include your specialties and your website. Now, this is where, if you are like a marketing person for your organization, let's just say for Bryson Insurance, you could have boilerplate copy or just cut and paste copy that you send to your entire team of really describing, hey, this is what the Bryson Insurance Company does, and this is who we help, and this is, so that everybody is on the same page for your entire company. Everyone's telling a consistent story. This is a great way for your team to become the brand ambassadors.
Sure.
Because what happens is on LinkedIn, most people think, oh, we need to showcase on the company page itself.
Right.
Well, the people are going onto LinkedIn connect with other people. They're not necessarily going onto LinkedIn to connect with the company.
Yeah.
And so there's just a huge opportunity for your company to become, for your team to be brand ambassadors, because each person at your company actually has 10 times the reach that the company page does.
Yeah, well, I find out as simple as when we share content on the business page versus sharing it on my own profile. There's way more engagement there.
Yeah, absolutely. So this really just sort of helps to showcase the company, and again, making sure that everybody is on the same page from a team perspective. So that's just sort of that's a bonus.
And in this really quick, so should a company write this for the team and then the team copy and paste it and stick it in here?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And sorry, and some people have jumped in here late. I just want to reiterate, ask questions as we go if you have questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the vanity URL, which is not easy to find, is another way that you can succinctly get rid of all the letters and numbers. So the reason why I'm showcasing this part is because your vanity URL is something that you can put on your email address, on your business cards. So it's basically just synthesizing down your name. So you just have to go through the process where it says, click says me, and then you'll go down to like edit profile or whatever. And it's kind of in gray. I don't know if you can see this on the slide here where it says edit your public profile. And just go in there and then just edit that so that it's just your first and your last name. And then put it on your business cards and stuff.
Yeah, when I saw this, I actually went on and checked mine to make sure, and I was like, oh, okay, I have done this. But it's like, if I gotta, because I at the end you'll see Leslie's profile, and I was like, oh man, is mine going to be a bunch of numbers with my name beside it? And it wasn't. So
well, most people don't know that you can do that, so it's just another added bonus thing too. So, and then just add more over time. Like Rome wasn't built in a day, and people go, oh my gosh, I'm so far behind on LinkedIn, and people get that shame of like, oh, I haven't been doing this. And really, honestly, it takes time to really create that profile. So don't worry about, like, focus on those 3 key areas first, because that's the first impression.
Sure.
And then over time, add in certifications that you've got, add in those projects, awards, courses, anything like that, any volunteer experience, those kinds of things. Just go in, go in once a week and say, is there anything else I can add in there?
Sure.
So yeah. Easy enough. And then also, this is really important too, is to get testimonials. So testimonials are really great social proof, because if someone else is staking their professional reputation on what a rock star you are, then it looks really good. As someone who owns their own business, I actually use these testimonials on all of my quotes. So anytime I send a quote out, they're right in there, so people don't second guess, like, oh, is she a hack, or does she know what she's doing?
Sure.
So these testimonials are important. Basically, what I recommend to do is, let's say I wanted to get a testimonial from you. I'd say, hey, Kyle, I'm just in the process of updating my LinkedIn profile. I would really love to feature a testimonial from you. To take out the heavy lifting, I've written the copy for you. So you can cut and paste. Please feel free to change it or write the copy yourself. Thank you so much in advance for your time. Because have you ever had to write a LinkedIn testimonial for someone?
Yeah, well, it's like
awful.
it can be awful. I just like write super fast and click submit, and what's also super neat about writing testimonials for people though is that it does provide like another way for people to find you, and so it's a great idea to actually help somebody look better on your profile by helping them write an awesome testimonial.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you've done the heavy lifting for them, they're much more likely to comply too. And you're writing in a way that you want to be showcased. Because most people are like, I don't know, Kyle's a great guy. What can I tell you?
Right.
You know, you're like, actually, this is what I did. This is how I help them.
Right.
So that's just another little tip too. So just
Great.
go through the process. Get a couple. You don't have to get 10,000. Another sort of side note is sometimes I don't know if this is a Canadian way of doing it, but there's the art of reciprocity. Like you said, if you give, you get. So typically about 50% of the time, if you write a testimonial for someone, they'll usually write one back for you because they feel like they should. So
yeah, and it's and there's two things that they say about that. One, it actually just feels good to write testimonials and have gratitude for people.
Right.
And two, like when you write those testimonials, you start showing up on their pages, and again, it expands your reach. The more testimonials you're writing for other people.
Yeah.
As long as you're authentically writing them and not just trying to get all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. So that sort of rounds out the first of the 3 steps, which is the create. So the next steps are really to go through and audit your presence to make sure that you have it optimized. Again, get on the same table, at the same side of the table as your target audience and see how they see you through that lens. And then just, set up some strategies to make over or clean up your digital footprint. So that's really step 1. The next step is to really connect with quality connections. I'm a huge champion about making sure you're just not amassing a huge database and network of, those business cards you have sitting in your drawer and you're like, I'm never going to look at these again. I make sure that I actually either have a conversation, either if it's virtually or face-to-face, or I do a lot of presentations, so I'll invite and everybody hopefully here will connect with me, is to make sure that there is some sort of exchange. In some way or shape or form. So we'll get into that stuff where you're making quality connections. And this really goes to the point of exchanging. We don't exchange business cards. If you go networking, you don't show up and just be like, here's my business card and walk away.
Right.
It's usually, tell me a little bit about what you do. Like, how is there anything I can do to help you when you're coming from a place of service? So we don't exchange business cards without a conversation. So how can you imagine just going and clicking on connect with everybody without realizing, is there going to be a value here? When people reach out to you and connect with you or want to connect with you from like Ireland and they're a florist, you have to sit back and go, is this going to be a valuable connection?
Right.
Or is it just going to be a random someone who wants to build up a network?
Well, and so in this too, so I've been to networking events where someone comes up to me and they're just like, here's what I do, here's why you should use my services, here's my offer, here's my card, have a nice day. And on LinkedIn though, I also see that happen as well.
Yeah,
where
that's
you just
called pitch slapping.
Yeah, oh, is that pitch slapping? Okay.
You don't want to be pitch slapping anybody.
Okay. and I think it's probably a paid feature into some capacity when the in-mails or something like that.
In-mails,
yeah, and we can talk about that later. But it's just like you get these messages, and for me, it's like an instant turnoff.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like it's a copy and pasted message all over the place.
Yeah.
So how do you actually recommend if I didn't know you and I was going to reach out to you in this kind of way that like I'm visualizing the traditional business networking format, but on LinkedIn, how would you recommend that reach out happen?
Well, like what we do, like we're human beings at the end of the day. And I think people forget that because we're in front of a computer or a device, that all etiquette goes out the window and we don't have to like apply the same kind of etiquette. So it's what you do already. You research the person ahead of time. You see if there's icebreakers in there. Did you go to the same school together? Did you know someone? Do you have people in common where you can go, hey, I just noticed that you and I both know X, Y, and Z, and even if they're like, I don't really know that person that well, at least you're sort of doing your due diligence of figuring out what can I do to be of service in this conversation instead of just, hey, want to buy my stuff? Find out if there's a need first. I think of it like dating.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't show up and be like, hey, you want to go back to my place?
Right.
You'd be like, let's get to know each other first. Want to buy me a drink first? It's like, and the same thing kind of goes with any kind of relationship. It's like really find out like who's the person you want to hang out with, the person who tells you just, verbal spits out of like, this is what I do and I'm so awesome. Or the person who's like, really, I'm really curious to like, tell me how I can help you. Is there anybody in my network I can introduce you to? How can I be of value to you? And think about that before you're reaching, not necessarily before you're reaching out, but if there's a dream connection, there, look at the icebreakers, look at the person's profile to see if there's anything that you can say. Hey, I noticed, you grew up in, Brooklyn, so, do you know so and so? And maybe it doesn't work, but at least you're not just being like, hey, buy my stuff. Find out if there's a need before you try to sell somebody something.
Yeah, and there's no perfect way. So my recommendation is just to start. Try to do a couple a week. And again, if you're sitting here like, oh man, I'm afraid of doing that or whatever it's occurring for you as, that Mindset for Success webinar is a perfect bridge to get you into action.
Yeah. And then if we are meeting people, so some of us are really active in the communities, you more than me, is when you're meeting people at networking events and you're taking their business card, hey, it was really great meeting you at, the Chamber of Commerce or the Board of Trade. It was really great meeting you at this blah, blah, blah. Really looking forward to staying in touch. Instead of just hitting connect.
Right.
Just tell the person this is how we met, so they're not like, who is this person? I don't remember.
Right, because I mean, even myself, I've clicked connect before because I'm like, oh, I hope they just accept it.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, I have to like hope that I'm gonna put myself on the line by writing something.
Yeah.
And though that's just a much better way to start a relationship, because otherwise, all those connects, I've got a list of people who have asked to connect. That I have no idea who, like, I don't know how I met these people or if I ever did.
And so we just have to think about our offline behavior. And I was going to say something I can't remember. Is really, so just go back to the last one for a second. So really this one is how you can take conversations from, so let's just say you get someone is amazing, this has happened to me, where someone you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this person wants to connect with, oh my gosh. So you accept the connection request and then again, start the conversation. This is what I was going to say was, our life, our relationships with our clients, with our network is really built on what Google calls micro moments. So it's one small moment over time that you build up collateral so that you're building up trust with them. And so each correspondence, are you actually, is it enhancing the relationship or is it detracting from the relationship? And so you can drive conversations offline by saying, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I'd really love to, get together with you on the phone or a cup of coffee to see if we can, I want to be of service to you. How can I help you? Rather than like me, the most important person, me, will you buy my stuff? Right. It's really is there someone in my network that I can help you with? I just read this cool article that I think you might find interesting. How can you be of service to that person? Because really, like, everybody wants that. Everybody wants to be on the same side of the table of like, are you being a service to the other person or is it really about you? So you can suss that out. So I've done that before where I've actually driven into Toronto, taken the time, driven into Toronto to meet like a really well-respected award-winning entrepreneur. And at the end of it, I thought I was only going to get like 5 minutes of her time. An hour and a half later, she's like, who can I introduce you to? Do you want me to help mentor you in your business? I was like, that was amazing. So you just never know. You can't do that all the time. Right. You don't have all the time in the world to go out and meet with people or even just get on the phone with people, but really just exchange. Again, somebody will connect with me. I'll just be like, thank you so much. Like, tell me a little bit more about your business or whatever. Yeah. So that's one of the things that you can drive relationships from online to offline. And then the last question that I always get,
and I just want to reemphasize that too. Like that's like the gold standard, right? Is now you have a real relationship with people, and then you can always go back to LinkedIn as a way to stay in communication. So when I'm communicating back and forth with Leslie, I actually use LinkedIn instead of email even, because it's just where we're talking and it's almost like a continuing conversation instead of it being emails and waiting for all that kind of stuff, which creates a really tight relationship with somebody.
Yeah, I can. The last question I get all the time is, okay, so somebody's trying to connect with me from England and they work in a shoe shop. Do I connect? Do I accept the connection request? And my question is, well, probably not. Right. But with the best way, either you can decide when you look at it, you might go, you know what, there is no way I'm ever going to do business with this guy or this girl. So you can ignore. I'm giving you full permission. You do not have to accept. And they don't know. Like if you click ignore, they don't get like a notification like Leslie doesn't like you. Sure. Because a lot of people are worried about that. But what I usually do is if I take the time to sort of take a look and go, could this person be a potential viable connection for me? Like, is there going to be some kind of, is this person going to be a valuable person in my network? What I'll typically do is respond to their connection request by saying, thank you so much for the invitation to connect. Can you refresh my memory as to how we know each other? Which is a really polite way of putting it back on their shoulders, put it back on their plate to say, why don't you qualify why you want to connect with me? Right. And that way, if someone does not respond to me, I don't accept them. Because if they don't want to take the time to say, why are you trying to reach out, then they're really not a valuable connection in my network. Now, 99% of other LinkedIn trainers will tell you, accept everyone and then develop a conversation. I do the opposite.
Sure.
I'm like, I keep that network. I don't get any spam.
Well,
Really, I really
you know what
don't.
happens. I've been on both sides of that fence, and I've accepted without really knowing people in the past, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden I was at an event, and someone's like, "Oh, we both know this." I noticed we both know this person, and I was like, "Who?" Which
Right.
was super inauthentic, right? And
Yeah.
completely like just shows that like, oh, my LinkedIn network is not actually who I'm linked in with in that kind of way.
Yeah.
Where not that you're going to remember everybody on there.
Absolutely. There's no
But I was
way.
like, I actually had no background or relatedness to this person at all.
Yeah.
It was just completely like, oh yeah, I'm sorry that I said that I'm
That
connected with this
happens
person.
though.
Sure,
I
it
mean,
does.
it's fine. I mean, I've got like almost 3,000 connections now.
Yeah.
There's no way that I'm going to remember all of them. And in fact, especially if I'm doing like a lot of public presentations, people reach out and
Well,
connect
sure,
with me.
people here you're asking to connect
Yeah,
with you.
connect with me. They're like, no.
Yeah.
But I will take the time. I promise you, I will take the time when people have said, "Oh, I saw you on the Bryson Insurance webinar. I'd love to connect with you here." I will take the time with every single person to say, "Thank you so much for taking the time to connect with me."
Yeah.
Because again, it's just a micro moment of time that could I just click accept and then just be in crickets?
Hmm.
I mean, honestly, we care about other, we're human beings at the end of the day. And that's exactly, if someone said it was nice to meet you, I wouldn't just stand there and go,
Right.
right?
You walk out the door.
Yeah, and he's like,
Okay.
yeah.
So okay, we gotta keep hustling.
Yeah. Okay. So in step 2, again, I am a big champion of quality over quantity. Again, I have 3,000 connections. That's no small feat. That's a pretty big network. And some of those people, even the loose connections, can actually be great for business for me, because maybe I haven't connected with them face to face, but they're like, we want you to come in, we want you to do presentations, we want you to write our LinkedIn profile. And so there might not be somebody I'd see every day, but again, I'm trying to build a network of how can we help each other. So it's really important to, like, when you're thinking about social selling, actually put a strategy in place. Sure. So if you want to turn a cold call into a warm introduction, or you want to build your network of quality people, who would be 5 dream clients, who would be 5 dream connections that you would love to connect with? Write them down, and then do the research, do your due diligence of seeing, what can I gather from their LinkedIn profile? Is there someone that, are they a secondary connection? And if so, can I find out a first degree connection that can say, hey, can you do a mutual introduction here? Or you can reach out, like the example I use all the time is like Dr. Deepak Chopra. So he's a secondary connection of mine. I could simply reach out to that first degree connection and say, you know what, I'd really love to talk to Dr. Chopra about this, that, and the other. Can you do me a solid and introduce me? Or if he wasn't the world famous Dr. Chopra, I could say, hey, I noticed that we're both connected to, Jeff Pulver. Could you do me a solid and, or not do me a solid, but we're both connected to Jeff. I'd really like to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. And so he might be like, I don't really know. I mean, he does know Jeff. But my point is, like, again, just how can you sort of develop a relationship without just sort of pitching right away. Right. And then, and see if you can't be of service to them. See if you can't say, hey, I read this great article. I think you might be interested in. And then start, like, if you can, depending on your industry, because some compliant, like I know I work with a lot of financial advisors. They're not allowed to do a lot of outward social selling stuff. So I'd say as long as you don't have compliance sort of holding your hands behind your back, you can click on on their, comment on their not their profile, but their posts and things like that. So that's a part of social selling, which we don't have too much time to get into, but we'll keep moving forward. So the last step in the 3-step process is building thought leadership. So this is where you get into how do you share content? Now, content can be done 2 ways. There's the content that you're creating. That way you're building thought leadership because you're writing it and people are looking to you as the thought leader. Then there's also content curation, which you're taking third-party information and then resharing that with your network. Now, I've come across this amazing, cool tool. They're based here in Toronto, and I'm not getting any money from them for tooting their horn. I just love what they're doing, and it's called Grapevine 6.
Okay.
And so Grapevine 6 is a tool that essentially crawls. It's an app that you can put on your phone, and you hook it up to your LinkedIn profile and any of your other social selling or your other social media channels. It's supposed to crawl your profile and say, oh, based on the keywords, we think you might be interested in serving up this kind of content.
Wow.
It's a game changer. I'm so excited about it. You have no idea, because as you know, if you're writing content or even just trying to synthesize content, it's so hard. So this actually comes to you. You can schedule it. You can, especially on in a team environment. So let's just say, for example, Bryson Insurance, your marketing person says, okay, we only want you guys to share the stuff that we pre-approve. They have like a premium account where the company pays for the Bryson content and then the pre-approved content. I'm like, it's a total game changer. Sure. I love this. And they're based in Toronto, which I love too. So Grapevine 6 is a
Wow.
pretty cool tool for
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, so or you're seeing something on CBC News, or you've seen
Yeah.
something like in your feed, and then you're resharing it. The important thing isn't just to share okay, you just click on share. Frame up why you want someone to click on it. So if
Right.
you're sharing a tip or you're sharing a resource, put in there like, oh, this article is about. Give a little descriptor, and then ask a question. What do you think about that?
Right.
Because when we ask questions, oftentimes our community will then engage, and that's a pretty cool metric, actually, more than the vanity metric of, oh, I've got 3,000 people in my connections. Well, if those if only one person wants to buy, who cares? But if you can get word of mouth awareness based on building engagement, and again, the social proof of testimonials and things like that, that's a better metric in my opinion than that's a whole other set of metrics.
And it was I wrote down grapevine 6. Is
Yeah.
so grape. So like grape, like the fruit, grape.
Yes.
And
grapevine 6.
and then a vine, like a grapevine.
Yes.
6.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure that when we send out the final email to this, that's included in there as a link to that.
Yeah.
And one of the and so just so we're also present, we're at the time, and we're going to extend for 5 minutes. Everybody will get a copy of this recording. So if you do need to leave, just know that you'll get what we're still going to cover.
Yeah.
But I want to really make sure we don't miss what's still to come. And just something I've learned for myself really recently is I was previously sharing and writing content that was really broad, but wasn't actually necessarily aligned to my role as culture and business development. So now I'm actually writing a lot of culture, or I'm sharing culture related stuff, like workplace wellness stuff.
Right.
And that's a game changer for me, because my engagement's gone way up.
Yeah.
And it's actually creating that type of thought leadership, or that network of people engaging with me that I actually want to connect with.
Yeah, and that's important, because I think a lot of people will think, oh, if I carve out a niche, if I only do this, then other people are going to think, well, they don't help me. And that's the hardest lesson that I've had to learn over the past few years. I teach, social media marketing during college at UIT, and so I can do a broad spectrum of social media, but I want to be known for a niche. Like, I want to be known as the LinkedIn person, because if I'm everything to everyone, I'm no one. You know what I mean? Like, then you can never be everything. Nobody's got Coca-Cola as a budget, right? Like, you can't be everything to everyone. You can really stand in your value and own that niche and become the thought leader in a specific niche. That's you think it's very counterintuitive. It feels like, oh, but I'm going to exclude those other people. I just want to pay the bills. But really, it is about carving out a niche and becoming a thought leader in that particular area.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the last step is really share a couple times a week. You don't have to be sharing all the time. That's what I love about LinkedIn too. Like Facebook, you're supposed to be sharing like a couple a day. Twitter, 4 to 20 times a day. You don't have to be doing that on LinkedIn. Like, twice a week is fine to share updates. And people are telling me all the time, every time I'm on LinkedIn, you're sharing something. And I try once a day. Like, it's not like I'm like hammering people.
Well, but your life, your niche is LinkedIn.
Yes.
Like, this is your.
That's my baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it totally makes sense for you.
Well, and so it's important for me to, like, this is where the business network, this is where the money is, quite frankly. So for me, this is the channel that, I try to share every day. I'm probably a heavier user than most people, because this is my niche, but once or twice a week is certainly more than enough. And so the other part is, which is in the slide here, is to continue to nurture relationships before you need them. You don't just want to connect with your clients. You want to connect with people that are within your wheelhouse of, like, I have this perfect client, they're amazing. How can you find their circle of influence? How can you find other people that are just like them, and then connect with them proactively, so that when they need someone that offers what you have, you've already built that collateral over time with the thought leadership and the being of service. And how can I introduce two people in my network that could mutually do business together without expecting anything in return, because it is really about being of service to people.
Yeah, and a great way to do that is even just in someone else's post comment. You can even just bring in somebody else to that conversation and just create a connection right in there. And George is asking here, is there a simplified sort of must do, must not do? It's coming back to the profile. So I think we'll come back to that at the end.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Ultimately, social media is about relationship building. The word social is built right into it. So as I said, we often think about these channels as, let's just blast out information.
Sure.
But what makes social media so very different than any other kind of, or like the traditional way of sort of terrestrial marketing, is it's a two-way conversation. That it's not just blasting your information at people, but really finding out, like, listening to the conversations, engaging. And here's something, actually, I wrote a blog about it yesterday, was what happens if someone says something bad about me? That's a big fear. It's a big fear. If I put myself out there and someone says, you suck, you know, how do you respond to that? And that's a total natural fear because I'm a psychology major in university, so it's like our amygdala, our lizard brain actually is hardwired to fear rejection. It's hardwired to fear like someone's going to say something bad. So the way you can do this is, number one, is listen, like before you get back into like, you know, someone says you suck, you'd be like, no, you suck. It's really to just sort of take a step back and realize, like, is the content of what they're sharing, some people think they're being helpful. Right. They may come across a little harsh. I know a couple times, I'm a people-pleasing person, so I just know sometimes I'll be like, oh gosh, they hate me. And then I step back and take a look, and is it constructive? Is it something that I can learn from? That's the first thing. Like, is there something in there that I can learn from? Maybe not everybody's gonna like me, which is devastating for me, Kyle, but not everybody's gonna like me, and I have to be okay with that because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. So I have to be okay with that. And then if someone says, like, if they're a troll, and like I had literally had someone write in one of my LinkedIn posts, you get paid for this crap. And I was like, how do I respond to that? Right. The fact is, never feed the trolls. If someone says you get paid for this crap, or they're looking to bait you in an argument, walk away. Absolutely. Because you can't argue with stupid. You know, you can't. There's fools out there that are going to try to bait you into an argument. And if I sit there and I justify it and say, oh, of course I get paid a lot of money for this stuff, or if I'm like, oh, what do you mean? Or like, I'm any kind of reaction, all of a sudden eyes go all over it. Yes. And so the fact if it's crickets, I don't even delete it. I let it lie. Because what happens is people have privately messaged me like, what's up with that idiot boy? You know, and you're like, yeah, right. And because I don't get baited into it, I don't look like the bad guy. You know, I'm not like following up with a post that sort of is like either trying to justify what I do or try to slam that person and get angry. Because the immediate thing is we want to protect ourselves, but just let it lie. And if someone has some critical feedback, or like someone doesn't agree with what I have to say, I'm totally open to that. I actually love to have opposing views because I think it's great for someone to say, I completely disagree with you, and I'll be like, awesome. I really do appreciate the feedback, and this is when we learn from each other. Is everyone's got their own opinion. I've seen you do that. Yeah, absolutely. And it's really not, you know, sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. But I'm open for someone says like, you're full of crap, not in a nice way. Like in a nice way of saying I completely oppose. You should just connect with everyone, because there's people out there on LinkedIn that are called Lions, LinkedIn Open Networkers, and they'll connect with like, you know, anybody. They'll connect with, you know, this table. So they'll connect with anybody, and I just disagree with that. That's just my strategy. So yeah. So the 3-step process: create an online impression that you can be proud of. Again, think about the reader, think about the person who's on the other end of the computer and how they're reading you and how they're processing who you are. Connect with quality people. Again, that's my thing. I was like, connect with people that that they can be beneficial to you and your network. And then ultimately the convert part. Everybody's in sales, even though I always consider myself to be a crappy salesperson because I'm I'm never the closer. I'm the person who's like relationship driven and how can I be of service. So, but really, even when I'm teaching, even when I'm trying to get my kid into bed at night, I'm in sales. I'm trying to convert him to get into bed. And so ultimately, that's why the last one is about the ROI. What's the return on investment? What's the return on your time? Is thinking about how you can be a better person in your network to ultimately convert people to do what we want them to do. Yeah, and I would say something like LinkedIn is that long game, but it actually is such a beautiful shortcut too. It's like snakes and ladders. Oh, sure. And so. Yeah, it's a great long game, and it provides that ladder just to jump right up through everything and get way ahead of who you're trying to talk to and who you're trying to connect with. So think of it from both those perspectives. Yeah, there's no silver bullet. Everyone wants the easy pill, right? You've seen Limitless. There's a downfall. Have you seen that show? That movie? Yeah. I was just watching it the other day. Yeah. But the thing is, like, everyone's like, oh, if I just take this magic pill, if I do this magic, if I do have the secret recipes for success, things are going to take off. It does. It's like one person at a time. One person you're shaking hands with at a time. So so I think we had a question about what the do's. We'll come to that in a second, just because I want to make sure people have an opportunity. Okay. So one of the things that Leslie does that's great is helps people write their profiles. That's what she specializes in for executives and other people in that place, because that can be not just hard to do, but extremely time consuming, especially if you don't know how to do it or even where to start. And there's also this book that Leslie has that's available. And usually, I was telling Leslie before we start, I don't do this aspect of it in terms of showing what someone makes available, but I find
LinkedIn to be so valuable and underutilized that I really want to make sure you have access to someone like Leslie to continue to get information.
It's on my
from.
website.
Yes.
So yeah, you can go into punchmedia.ca and you can see where to get my book.
And I'll send that out too in the follow-up.
Yeah.
And so look, I have my LinkedIn profile.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Right?
Yeah.
You fancy.
Yeah. Yeah, and so at this time, I want to thank everybody who's actually spent their morning with us today. I hope you got good value, and thank you too for making time to be up here with us this morning and answer the questions from the audience. Yeah, for the rain. And we will close down the formal part, and as long as you're okay with it, we'll just spend a couple extra minutes answering questions for anybody.
Yeah.
But at this time, thank you all. You all get a copy of this recording, and if you do have follow-up questions, Leslie's available for you. So thank you very much.